Welcome to another episode of What is Hashimoto's with Dr. Martin Rutherford. To find out more on any of our topics, or for information on scheduling a consultation with Dr. Rutherford, please visit us at whatishashimotos.com. And now, here's Dr. Rutherford.
So we're going to talk about Hashimoto's and stress today, and who's not stressed today, right? And I think, people, it's a funny thing. People get that they're stressed, and they get that it creates a physiological response in them, and that it makes them want to choke people and kill people and do stuff like that. But they're also, it's like my heart's beating, and I'm huffing and puffing, and I have no energy. But there's not a connection a lot of times with the fact that the stress is either triggering, causing, or perpetuating their conditions. And not only is there not an exception for that with Hashimoto's thyroiditis or just Hashimoto's hypothyroidism, stress is probably the first thing I look at when a person walks in here. Now, I do functional neurology, okay? And I am involved in that. In functional neurology, one of the big aspects of it is to assess people's stress responses as how it affects their entire physiology. And we kind of, for those of you who've watched this, and maybe you've seen our Back to Basics, we kind of have an idea as to how to attack autoimmunity. And there's an organization to it. You've probably heard me talk about hierarchy. Probably tired of hearing me talk about hierarchy and order and how you attack things. Stress is right at the top. Like literally right at the top. And I'll tell you, it's like the three first things I look at, the five first things I look at is stress, sleep, relationships, blood sugar, and oxygen. I mean, I don't even go anywhere else until I look at those. Because if you're deficient on all of that, I can't help you with your relationships. And if you have a bad relationship with your husband or your wife or your boss, or your workers, or your coworkers, or whatever, and it's ongoing, that's like something that has to be kind of handled before we get into the whole involvement and finding out all your triggers, because that's like the biggest trigger that there is, because it causes stress. and stress is number one. Stress is number one. So it's stress, sleep, and relationships. Stress, relationships, sleep. They need to be addressed. Why? Because stress, when you go into stress, it alters your entire physiology. There's not that many things that affect every single one of the trillions of cells in you. Stress happens to be one of them, and thyroid happens to be another one of them. And so stress will trigger it. Basically what stress does is it shuts down your whole gut system, and it shuts down your bladder. Your urinary bladder, and so stress creates an issue where your stomach's not working. How many people do not know that stress causes ulcers? Well, long before you get ulcers, it's altered the physiology in your stomach, so that you're not digesting food, you're not sterilizing food, your bowels aren't moving. Stress is probably the number one cause of constipation in this country. For all you who are taking Miralax, for all of you who are like buying, stock in Smooth Move tea and magnesium supplements and all that, look and see if you're stressed. Stress is the number one cause of that. Stress shuts down your intestines can't work. Now it's off to the races. You can get, without getting into it, you can get small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, you can get constipation, imbalance in bacteria, you name it. It'll cause your candida to flare up. If you have candida, it'll cause your stomach to not be able to kill H. pylori. Now you get ulcers, you get H. pylori, you get GERD, you get all that stress. It's like crazy. When you are under chronic stress, your body thinks you're in fight, flight, thinks you're in danger. It shuts down your ability to move your bowels and pee, because you don't need to be doing either while you're fighting or fleeing. And so your brain doesn't know that from an intellectual point, but it knows that from a basic chemistry, neurological point of like survival. And so that alters a lot of things. And we're 75% of your immune system, it's in your gut, right? Everybody knows that by now. And what else? And what are we trying to fix? We're trying to dampen autoimmunity. We can't dampen autoimmunity. What is Hashimoto's? It's an autoimmune problem. You're trying to dampen an immune attack against your thyroid, your chronic stress. Good luck. Okay, just had one here yesterday. You hear me say this almost every time, but I talk to a lot of people. I had one yesterday. Young man, delightful young man. This gentleman's had like stress his whole life. So he's probably has actually a genetic stress factor. You've heard of like having the MTHFR gene. Maybe most people seem like who watch these things seem to have heard about that. He has something else called the COMT, meaning his brain hasn't been able to shut down since day one, since he was born. Okay, so that's our battle. That's our first battle. Stress also is kind of in a vicious cycle with thyroid. Thyroid's the second most common cause of constipation. So now you have a thyroid that is also slowing down a gut that your brain is already telling to not work. And then it's just a cascade from there. It's just insane, all the things that take place from there. That's not even counting your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands are putting out lots of cortisol. When you're stressed, it's putting out lots of cortisol. Cortisol is inflammatory. Cortisol alters your blood sugar, so stress can even alter your blood sugar numbers. You're going to the doctor for diabetes, and it's not diabetes, it's that you're stressed out of your mind. All of that's affecting your thyroid. So again, Hashimoto's in and of itself, and frankly, all autoimmune problems, all established, confirmed autoimmune problems. The alternative, or maybe I should say the functional, the classic, back to basics, functional medicine approach to it is it's a moving target. There are a lot of vicious cycles. There are a lot of different organ systems that you have to dampen, and so they're all in this chronic stress affects that organ system. The organ system affects that, and so it is the number one X factor by far. If someone's coming in here, and I know a lot of you out there are the never druggers, never. Okay, I'm not. That's not me. I'm like let's do everything else first. But if somebody comes in here and goes, man, I got on Xanax and it changed my life. My bowels got better when I got on Xanax because it calmed my down. I'm like, stay on it, so that we can now work on your bowels while you're using that. Now, will we try to get that person off of that later on? That's not my job, but if a person desires to do that, they may just be able to get off it on their own. In fact, a lot of people say, you want to look at that Xanax now, might talk to your doctor about it. A lot of people go, oh, I stopped that like 2 months ago. So, but the point being that Xanax was affecting their brain, that was dampening their intestinal response. We were able to work with that we were able to dampen their Hashimoto's. Now that whole loop starts working. Like about 80% of their symptoms go away because that thyroid is dampened. Now it's dampened some inflammation to the brain. It's increased blood supply to the brain because Hashimoto's decreases blood supply to your brain, increases inflammation in your brain, and the next thing you know, you don't need all those drugs. You don't need the drugs for your brain. So that's stress and Hashimoto's. I don't know if I hope that makes sense because it made sense to me. But I hope it made sense to you. I hope I presented it in an organized fashion so that you can understand stress is killer. Listen, whatever you got to do to get that stress response under control while you're in conflagration mode, you need to do. Whatever it is, whether it's meditation, whether it's yoga, whether it's take a walk, whether it's deep breathing, whether it's going out and beating 1,000,000 golf balls, whether it's taking medications or herbs or botanicals, you need to do that. You need to do that because, believe me, everything else is either not going to work, it's not going to work very well, or it's not going to work for a very long time. So that is stress and Hashimoto's.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of What is Hashimoto's? To find out more on any of our topics, or for information on scheduling a consultation with Dr. Rutherford, please visit us at whatishashimotos.com.